people how to use high-yield variety of seeds. We're teaching them how to use their telephone to order fertilizer, to order seed, how to use their telephone to transfer money from account to account. This is financial inclusion. Kenya has done it. Namibia, I'm not talking about America or Portugal or England. I'm talking about Kenya. Kenya, Namibia, they've done it. So this is all about ambition. And to be honest with you, all the people complaining about cash limit are the rich people. It's not the poor people, because I know that there are very few Nigerians that have the ability to take 150,000 naira in a day from their account as a percentage of Nigerians. And all the people that take 20 million, 30 million naira, they have alternatives today. If for whatever reason, I don't know, people have different reasons, you choose that you don't want to transfer, you want to carry cash and move it, fine, you pay the cost of cash handling. That is all we have said. The final thing on this, I would say two things. Nigeria has risked being blacklisted several times for money laundering. And one of the major drivers of money laundering operations is high level of cash transactions that cannot be traced. This National Assembly passed a law in 2004, the Money Laundering Act. In that law, it is illegal to have a cash transaction in excess of 500,000 naira outside the banking industry. It is illegal. It is not being enforced. Why? How can you enforce it when you can go to a bank and take 20 million naira free? How can you enforce a limit of 500,000 naira on cash transactions? How do you get people into the banking system if they don't need the banks? How do you trace transactions? So as we try to improve the image of this country and move into standards that are acceptable internationally and build our reputation, we have to have regulations that check. And it's not just Naira. You have a situation today in Nigeria where a secondary school is asking people to pay school fees in dollars. Where you go to rent a house and the landlord is saying, pay me in dollars. In Nigeria. We have to stop importation of dollars. We cannot be promoting within Nigeria the circulation of a foreign country's currency. And we will come out with it. If you want, you can have an exchange rate. Every time the exchange rate moves, you increase your rent. That is your decision. But if you live in Nigeria, and I don't care where you're from, you accept payments in Naira. Because that is the currency of this country. Now, these things are part of a comprehensive reform of payment system. They are controversial. We will continue to explain, but I do hope that this clarifies what this policy is. And we said we'll start with pilots, because somebody called me and said, oh, he's protesting on behalf of Fulani cattle rearers. I said, I'm Fulani. I have not seen any nomads in Lagos. I have not seen nomads in Kano. I have not seen them in Aba. I have not seen them in Abuja. We said we're doing pilot. We've worked with the government of Lagos State. His Excellency Governor Fashola has given us total support. We have a committee involving central bank. We have the banks. We have mobile companies. We have POS providers. Okay? We have everybody in the value chain for transforming the payment system. And we have no doubt that if you go to Lagos in January 2012, you will see a difference. And we'll get to a point where if you're driving from Abuja to Lagos, you carry your card. You don't even think twice. You go to a petrol station, use your card to buy petrol. Go into the supermarket to buy food. Go to a pharmacy to buy drugs, as happens everywhere else in the world. This tendency to view every single national matter as either ethnic or religious will not get us anywhere. You have an election, and the concern is not about power or infrastructure or education. It is about whether the president comes from the north or the south of the Niger. This is not how we should run a country, and I think for those of us who are opinion shapers and who are leaders in society, we must recognize that everything that happens, has to start somewhere. And I think it's important that we understand what is the rationale, what is the basis, and how does it affect the country as a whole. Non-interest banking is provided for in the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act of 1991. And I have given you attached as Appendix B extracts from the Central Bank of Nigeria Act and BOFIA. And if you look at the second page, Section 66 of BOFIA says, in this act, unless the content otherwise requires, profit and loss sharing bank means a bank which transacts investment or commercial banking business and maintains profit and loss sharing accounts. So profit and loss sharing banks, non-interest banks, are allowed. Now, there are different types of profit and loss sharing banks, and one established type are called Islamic banks. Now, this is not a name invented by the Central Bank of Nigeria. If you go to London today and you walk down Edgware Road, you will see Islamic Bank of Britain. It's there. HSBC has an Islamic banking subsidiary called Amana. Standard Chartered Bank has a subsidiary called Sadiq. It's an Islamic bank. Citibank in Khartoum is an Islamic bank. You speak of commercial banking, merchant banking, investment banking, microfinance banking, community banking, Islamic banking. It is a product. Now, it's not religion. It's a $1 trillion business. If a profit and loss bank engages in the business of financing breweries, it is not an Islamic bank. So in addition to banning interest, there are certain ethical principles, certain products that the bank does not deal in. Islamic bank does not finance breweries, it does not finance casinos, it does not do pornography or prostitution, and it does not engage in speculative transactions like options and futures. That is all. It has nothing to do with mosque, nothing to do with law. It is just a bank that does not accept interest, does not finance alcohol, does not finance gambling, does not finance pornography, and does not take part in excessive speculation. That is the definition of the product. Now, in 1991, when BOFIA was amended, the central bank started receiving applications from parties that wanted to set up non-interest banks. Between 91 and 93, we received applications from two banks, Al-Baraka Bank and Al-Aqida Bank. I repeat that this name is Al-Aqida because the last time I said Al-Aqida, Channel said I said the terrorist group Al-Qaeda. The name is Al-Aqida, and Al-Qaeda, to the best of my knowledge, did not exist and never applied. For some reasons, they didn't meet the terms of a license. In the 1990s, Habib Bank applied and got approval of the central bank to set up an Islamic banking window. In 2004, Jaiz International Bank applied to set up a non-interest bank based on Islamic banking principles. Now, as we go through these appendices, May I remind the House, I became governor of the central bank on 1st June 2009. So anything that happened before June 2009 happened before I came to the central bank. If you go to Appendix C of the documents that you are given, this is a letter from the Central Bank of Nigeria dated 18th of May 2005 to Jaiz International Bank PLC, the promoters, referring to their application for a banking license, okay, and giving them a no objection for Jaiz. So the Jaiz approval in principle was first given in 2005. Another issue that has been raised, I think it's been raised by Khan, is the membership of the Islamic Financial Services Board. If you go to Appendix D, you have a letter dated November 12, 2008, sent by Mr. Tunjele Mo, who is here, who was Deputy Governor, to the Islamic Financial Services Board, conveying the decision of the central bank to join the Islamic Financial Services Board as a full member. Still in that appendix, there's a big memo. I have actually decided, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, to bring internal documents and circulate to members of the House. There is this memo that you can see. It's an internal memo done to Governor Charles Soludo, asking for approval for Nigeria Central Bank to join Islamic Financial Services Board as a full member. And you can see on the face of it in red, signed by Governor Soludo, approved on the 28th of October 2008. Now, on that memo, I refer you to page 8. Page 8 of that memo, I'm going to read two paragraphs, the first paragraph and the third paragraph. Paragraph 1 says, in Nigeria, and this was in 2008, it says, in Nigeria, institutions, namely Bank PHB, commenced window Islamic banking since 1999. Intercontinental Bank, UBA, Standard Chartered, sought our approval to operate an Islamic banking window, while a full-fledged request for an Islamic banking license is being processed by the department. The third paragraph says, presently, the department has constituted a committee to develop the supervisory and regulatory framework for the operations of Islamic banking in Nigeria in line with best practice. The committee, led by the Deputy Governor, Financial Sector Surveillance, who's sitting here, is Reverend Tunjele Mo, undertook a study tour to Malaysia. And the visit affords the committee the opportunity to visit IFSB. Now, this internal document is a 2008 document. And the visit to Malaysia was carried out in 2008. The agreement, membership agreement, as Appendix E is there, signed by Deputy Governor Lemo and Rifat Abdul Karim on 8th of January 2009, 6 months before I became governor. Members will note I'm trying in this presentation to anticipate some of the objections and basically give the information. The guidelines for Islamic banking, or the guidelines for non-interest banking, I refer members to Appendix J Appendix J is a notice of meeting of the Financial System Stability Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The second page there gives you the members of the committee, chaired by Governor Soludo. We have Ernest Abi, who is no longer with us. We have Sarah Alade, Tundele Mo, Suleiman Baro. The three of them are in this hall, who sat in that meeting on 23rd February 2009. I have photocopied the relevant page, which is page 7. And that page, the very last thing before closing, memo on proposed framework for the regulation and supervision of non-interest banks in Nigeria. The meeting considered the paper as read and approved it accordingly. January 2009. Now, what is this paper that was approved? That is the paper you have as Appendix F, the draft framework for regulation and supervision of non-interest banks in Nigeria. Now, this was the framework released, and I keep repeating, ladies and gentlemen, this framework was released before I became governor, before I was appointed governor. And I will read from the introduction. A non-interest bank means a bank which transacts banking business, engages in trading, investments, and commercial activities, as well as the provision of financial products and services in accordance with the principles and rules of Islamic commercial jurisprudence. Transactions and contracts under this type of banking are non-permissible if they involve interest, uncertainty, gambling, speculation, unjust enrichment, or exploitation and unfair trade practices. And then you've got the rest of the document. Now, this definition was a very controversial definition. This guideline was issued in March 2009. We left it out there for comments from stakeholders for 8 months. Based on the comments of stakeholders, the guidelines were updated and released in January 2011. But a number of things remained that caused concern in the public domain. And I directed a number of amendments to these guidelines. The first complaint, and the central bank considered this complaint a valid complaint, was that the definition of non-interest banking in the guidelines restricted it to Islamic banking.